Good morning, everybody. The month of Kislev is sponsored by the Gantavnik family in honor of Eliana's bat mitzvah and their Chai anniversary, by the Aaron family, in Lilui Nishmas Levi ben Yosef, for the refuah of Shoshana Yona bas Edel and Hila bat Ilana, by the Silver family, in memory of Bat Yefega bat Yisrael, by the Finns, for the refuah Hatzlacha for all of the Chayalim, for the refuah Shlema of those that were injured, David Netanel ben Ayala Ahuva, Tzvi David ben Tamar, Ro'i Chaim ben Meirav, Achia ben Yael Chaya, and Tov Shmuel ben Avia Nava, and by Raziel and Leah Hershkowitz, memory of Raziel's grandfather, Shlomo Leib ben Rafael Gedalia. The week is sponsored by Lisa, in honor of Ike's birthday. Happy birthday. And anonymously for the Limud Torah this week. Do you mind just closing that door over there? Thank you so much. Okay, let's get right to it. We have a very interesting shir today. It will, I'm already letting you know, this was going to be triggering all morning. Okay, this is a trigger. This one is like a, you'll see what I'm talking about. To recap very briefly what we have been doing. We've been discussing the inyan of having both a very healthy parental-child relationship, that you're the parent, your kid's the child, as well as chaverut and yedidut, as well as friendship with our children. And we've been speaking about that the last 2 times we've been learning. How it finds the right balance, and how sometimes not understanding that correctly could also lead to a great deal of confusion as well. And we've been having all these different examples. And it's brought up a lot, and I've been really enjoying listening to many of you after the shir, trying to piece all the pieces together. Lo pashut. It's not a simple thing. The last thing we worked on was that the mitzvah of ואהבת לרעך כמוך, your children are included in that mitzvah, which is we don't necessarily take our children into that mitzvah, but our children are included in that mitzvah as well. That's fascinating. Fascinating things. Today, we're going to see the pnimius of the concept of how there could be any level of expectation for the mitzvah of ואהבת לרעך כמוך to really be implemented between parents and children. I was told this in different words by a dear friend of mine, Dr. Cliff Bachner, many years ago. And you'll see why it's so triggering today, because this is not necessarily about us and our children, it's also about us and our parents, whether they're in this world or not in this world. There's a lot going on over here. So if you see the top of the page, Tet Vav, you see the top of it, page Tet Vav on the top, the sikum of everything we said until now, sikumam shel dvarim hu. שהקשר בין ההורים לילדיהם חייב להיות מבוסס על שני מימדים, like we said. The connection between parents and children must be multidimensional. מחד חובה שתהיה בבית היררכיה ברורה, a clear hierarchy. שהילדים יבינו כי הקובע הבלעדי בבית הם ההורים. The children must know and understand. The only ones that officially call the shots are the parents. ורק באמצעות כך ניתן ליצור משמעת בבית. This is the only way of bringing out a form of discipline. ובמקביל לכך, but in the same breath, חובה שתהיה ידידות בין ההורים לילדים, ובין הילדים לבין עצמם. There must be friendship between parents and children, between children and their parents. דבר שיוצר אווירה בבית של ואהבת לרעך כמוך, שכל בני הבית הם ידידים ורעים. Kind of like what were they called? The Von Trapps? Right? Von Traps, yeah. So everyone's Simcha Dik, and But here, this is mamash something. This is pnimius. It's like we never use that word pnimius. Like if there was ever a moment that it would be shayach for this series to say that word, it's definitely today. I know that there's the hierarchy and there's the discipline. That's clear. Most of us grew up much more with that, whether it was what we received and what we've given to our children. This world of chavirut and yedidut is something that is less focused on definitely in the world of of Jewish history, is not something that has been one of the yesodot of chinuch in the home, but that also is something that we cannot ignore anymore. It's very clear. But the pnimius of it, the inside of it, this is what it's really all about. So look how Rav Schwartz now takes us on a very, very interesting journey. You're going to have a lot of questions. I'm just asking to refrain from them unless it's like mom or something you don't understand. Okay, you'll see what I mean. Achen tfisa zo, this perception is murkevet. This is complicated. This is a complicated thing. It's very hard to implement this in our day-to-day lives. But if we go deeper and we understand the inner story of what's going on over here, it'll make it easier for us. When he says here Sfarim HaKdoshim, he's referring mainly to the books rooted deep in Kabbalah and Chassidus. אין זו הפעם הראשונה שהנשמות של כולנו בדורות הללו ירדו לעולם הזה. So a little bit of background. Our souls, there's rarely is there a concept that a brand new soul is coming down to the world today. We're all here to finish, to complete unfinished business from previous times that we've been down here, and that's why to finish the job here and never have to come back down here would be a really good thing for everyone. Like the Gemara tells us, that Chazal came to the conclusion, Noach lo la'adam shelo nivra, it's much more better for the person to not have even been created in the first place, but since he's already created, may he figure out why he's here and get to work. But our neshamas, he's saying over here, this is not the first time you and I are in this world. It doesn't mean that you'll be able to, maybe you probably know exactly each gilgul, but most people don't exactly know, exactly what each gilgul of theirs was and what they had to go through, what they were at, what their tikkunim were. But we have to work off the premise that this is not the first time. It is hopefully the last time we're down here, Bezrat Hashem, but it's not the first time. So taking that into account, we have to continue the rest of the shir. וכל נשמה כבר הייתה בעולם הזה יותר מפעם אחת ואף יותר מפעמיים. Each soul, us, you and I, we've been in this world at least once, maybe even twice. ועתה נתבונן. Now, taking that into account, let's ask the following question. האם בכל הפעמים שהיינו בעולם, from all the times we were in this world, ילדינו הם אותם ילדים שהיו לנו בגלגולים הקודמים? Are our children the same children we had in previous reincarnations? What do you think without looking ahead? Of course not. It doesn't work like that. Gilgulim is not, I'm married to the same person, we show up again, it's the same children, we're trying to fix it now. It doesn't, that's not what it is. It is barur. That's not the story. It is absolutely not the story that those people, the people that were your children in a previous gilgul and the person you were a child to in the previous gilgul, it's not the same thing. That it's the same family makeup. This is clear by all the Sfarim HaKadoshim that delve. The Arizal was very, very, very. He dealt with this extensively in Shara Gilgulim, the Arizal, HaKadosh, the Yitzchak Luria. And so many of the other works speak a lot about this. But the simple answer is absolutely not. בוודאי שהתשובה הברורה לכך היא בוודאי שלא. כפי שמובאים כמה מעשיות בספרים הקדושים ומייבאו היסטוריז, שלפעמים אף הייתה התהפכות גמורה. That sometimes it was actually the complete opposite. למשל, אותם נשמות שהיו בגלגול אחד רב ותלמיד, בגלגול הבא התלמיד הפך לרב והרב הפך לתלמיד. We have stories like this. Rabbis and students. In a previous reincarnation, it was flipped over, and the student was the Rav, and the Rav was the student. כמוך, ייתכן שבגלגול הזה יש אבא ובן, שבגלגול הקודם מצבם היה הפוך. This could also be that your child, this is going to sound pretty out there, but in the realm of what do we know, it could be that your child was your father or your mother in a previous reincarnation, and you were their child. It could be. We're not saying it is. And I have to preface, like, that's why I'm saying in the beginning of the shir, this is going to be triggering, because I don't want you now to, like, look at your girl and be like, Mommy? It's this is all begeder ha'efshar. This is all in the realm of it could very well be. We don't know these things. It could be our parents were much younger, that we played a completely different role in our lives, in the parental or child relationship in the previous gilgul, that is completely different than what we have to do today. Now he adds here in the brackets, it's very important, כמובן שאין כוונת הדברים שעקב כך, האבא צריך לחשוש שמא עקב כך, הוא צריך לשמוע בקול בנו. This does not mean, okay, let me go home and listen to what my child is wants and telling me to do. That's not what we're talking about. So I just have to make it very clear. So what do we learn from such a notion of truth? What is there to learn from this statement? מהי מסקנה אותה עלינו ללמוד מכך? What are we supposed to be learning from this? Okay, so now, focus in really, really deep over here. ישנה תפיסה של גוף וישנה תפיסה של נשמה. תפיסה means perception. There's a perception of a body and there's a perception of a soul. בתפיסה של הגוף, in the perception of the body, אכן היחס הוא שאנחנו ההורים והם הילדים. Right? Body-wise, like physically. We're the parents, they're the children. Abayat shayach lanu, the house is under our name. Ha'achnasa shayechet lanu, income is ours. Hakol beba'alutenu, it's all under our, meaning the parents' ownership. That's all true on the level and the perception of guf. Aval, ulam. However, בממד הפנימי, כל הורה צריך לחשוב. He wants us to entertain this following thought. לי יש נשמה ולילדי יש נשמה. I have a soul, my child has a soul. האם בהכרח שהנשמה שלי כהורה גבוהה יותר מהנשמה של ילדיי? So does that necessarily mean, this is very deep, that my neshama is greater than my child's neshama? And if it doesn't, then what does that mean? Right? If it doesn't, Baruch Hashem, I think that many of us look at our children, and even though we know I have responsibility, some of us look at our children and be like, these neshamas are, I don't know what their stock, where their stock is, where it's coming from. It's like they're coming from a place so high, so elated, and their neshamas are so much greater. I grew up in a house like that, my parents, my father specifically would emphasize this all the time. Sometimes it even, messed us up at a certain age because, my father would always tell me, since I don't know from what age, like it's something that's rooted in me, would always say, like, not put me on a pedestal, but would speak about the neshama. On a neshama level, he was very, very, very aware of this, naturally. And he didn't learn this in cheder. He didn't learn this by a rav or by a rebbe or by a teacher. On the opposite, my father learned everything on his own. Everything. So what do we do with this is the question, right? How is this going to affect anything about what we're learning here? But even more than that, affect the home itself. That's what we want to know. If you could embrace the possibility that your child's neshama is much greater than yours, whatever that means also. I don't even know what that means. We could start delving into that, saying, how do you measure neshamas? How do you size up neshamas? But when you learn Chassidus, you actually see these things are addressed. Anyone that's learned the Tanya inside sees the Alter Rebbe speaks about these things clearly. It's a whole build-up. What the Alter Rebbe does with the concept of certain neshamas that are coming from a much higher and elated place, as opposed to others, and many of it, and has a lot of factors, how and it's not for now, how these things take place. So again, האם בהכרח שהנשמה שלי כהורה גבוהה יותר מהנשמה של ילדיי? We're in the fourth line in the last paragraph. Does this mean that my neshama as a parent is greater than the neshama of my children? כמובן שהתשובה לכך היא שלילית. Of course the answer is no. שהרי ייתכן. ואף פעמים רבות המציאות מורה כך. Because sometimes the reality shows me this clearly. My experience of reality shows me this clearly, שנשמת האב והאם נמוכה יותר מנשמת ילדיהם. Sometimes you have this, that the soul of children is much greater than the souls of their parents. ואף אם נניח שאינה נמוכה יותר, ייתכן שהיא שווה. Forget about saying it's lower, maybe they're equal. ואף ייתכן שהיא למטה מנשמת ההורים. And it could be also that it's smaller than the neshamah of the parents. כל שלושת האפשרויות קיימות. Any one of these three options is possible. So, just to pause for a second. Does that threaten anybody so far? If you're, like, honestly, was what we learned right now threatening at all? I hope not. But it'd be okay to say if it did. That's what I want to just point out in this shiurim. Why would it make sense if you would be threatened by such a possibility of truth? I would be threatened by it totally, because then my question would be, so how do I relate? Like, if I'm standing in front of such a great neshama, and then I know I have to discipline, and I have to sometimes come out with like some things that are hard, that are difficult. What do I do with this aspect of the grandiose neshama that's in front of me? Yeah.
My question is, like, if we're talking about this beautiful funnel, well, you know, it's like, can I pour what I have into that funnel if that kli is, you know, greater?
Or maybe I'm going to strengthen your question. Do I have anything to give? Well, you have, on the guf level, you'll always have something to give, because that's the way Hashem set you up in this gilgul, to be a parent that has to provide, right? But maybe on a soul level, the question is, what could I possibly, is there באמת? האם יש משהו שאני יכול לשים שמה?
Well, there must be, if you guys were put together.
Well, there must be is on the guf level, right?
No,
On the neshama level, there must be?
I mean, it wasn't, I didn't choose the neshama to give birth to, right?
That's also a question. I'm not getting into that one. That's a far out, whole nother concept, but I hear. יכול להיות. Let's see what he says. Yes.
Don't we have this idea, though, that the child's neshama chooses the parent?
It's an idea. Yeah.
It's not.
It's an idea.
Moshe,
It's not Torah Messina. I mean, I never saw it written anywhere in the psukim, but I've said that like 50 times at least under chuppah, what you said. I'm not it's Torah from Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchever. Of course that we have this concept. But al pi pshat shel advarim, you know, it's intense. Yeah.
I thought that was the sign of geula, though, that like the children will be higher than the parents, both in terms of, I guess, neshama level, but also in terms of knowledge. And that's what I was told, for example, the whole Baal Tshuva movement and how the children brought their parents back and like everything that like, and this just, I think, kind of strengthens that like.
That's based on the pasuk from Malachi. V'heshiv lev avot al banim v'lev banim al avotam. That's one of the interpretations for that pasuk of the signs of Mashiach. Is exactly what you're saying, Nachon. It still leaves us with the question, though. Okay, so l'maaseh, I'm still a parent at home. What do I do with this? Even if it's true. I mean, not even if it's true. It is true. But look at the world today. I mean, just in this room, I know, based on conversations I've had with many of your parents over the years, that they feel exactly what we just said right now. Like, exactly what we just said right now. So, yesh po inyan, we have to delve deeper into this, because this will open up a whole gate, a whole new approach towards just looking at our children in a different way, and thus then bringing out some, and also, not just that, also internalizing a deeper understanding of our relationship with our parents, whether they're in this world or they're not in this world. It's a very, very interesting thing. So in the bottom,
Does this delve into like the concept of self-esteem? Like if you think about neshamas and their greatness, and like obviously as a parent, like you want to instill like that you want to build your child's sense of like self-worth and self-esteem. And as a parent, if you don't have a good sense of that you're also worth it and that you might get into that trap of feeling like, what do I have to give to this? Like you have to have it from both sides.
Nachon. So I think that it's definitely a natural outcome of this introspection. He doesn't approach it head on in this parak. He has a whole book that actually, it's called Da'at Atzmecha. This is Da'at Yiladecha, he also has Da'at Atzmecha, Da'at Nafshecha. We have Bezrat Hashem, we have many years. Bezrat Hashem, we should have many years to keep on learning. Okay, so the bottom over here, למותר להדגיש שלצורך כל ההלכות שנוגעות לעניין היחס בין הורים לילדים. Okay, so he's saying, hold on, regarding all the halachas, regarding how parents and children have to interact, יש להתנהג כפי התפיסה של הגוף. Why? Because what could happen? He says, what's the first thing he says? הן לעניין ירושה. Because, you know, you'll come up with this like, Yerusha's inheritance.
No, the one before.
Tfisa, perception of the body. You have to act just in the perception of body, of guf. Hen le'inyan Yerusha, hen le'inyan kirva, v'hen le'inyan kibud av va'em. You know, there are a lot of halachas. There are a lot of halachas that have to do with family stuff, with parents and children, inheritance and kibud urim. You can't walk out of this learning and be like, I'm really going to go with the neshamah perception. I think that really just fits better. And then, like, you have all these things of like kibud urim and this and that, and like you tell your children, listen, the truth is, I think to really fulfill the mitzvah, I need to start honoring and respecting you, my 8 or 18 or 28 or 48-year-old or 58. You know what I mean? No. When it comes to halachas are here in this world of guf. So he wants to make sure that no one comes to that conclusion. Adam shechai im tfisa pnimit yoder, a person that lives with a deeper perception of life, umitragel lachshov, sheyesh chaluka brura ben tfisa shel guf letfisa shel neshamah, and becomes accustomed to live and to think about the clear distinction between the perception of body and the perception of soul. הרי שהמבט והיחס שלו כלפי הילדים צריך להיות אף בהסתכלות של נשמות. Then, and this is the avoda, the big avoda here. Then you have to be accustomed to looking at your children like their souls, like their neshamas, and not just be tuned into that when it's 1 a.m. and you're looking at pictures of them on your phone. Oh, what an neshama. No, it's also at 3 p.m., at 5 at bedtime. Can we imagine looking at our children as neshamas, trying to get them to bedtime and wake up, right? That's the chap. Now that doesn't mean they're just neshama. That doesn't mean, okay, so it's just a neshama thingy, and would you like me to please, you know, what's a good example for like just neshama at bedtime? I don't know, you could think of it, or I wake up. Imagine I wake up my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, and I say to her, sweetie, my hands are waiting right now to have the amazing privilege of lifting your head up gently and then figuring out a way that peacefully everything could transition amazing for you to feel extraordinary this morning. No, it's you need to get up right now, right? You need to wake up right now. That's guf. You need to wake up right now. The neshama doesn't need to wake up. The neshama doesn't go to sleep. Neshama's chai v'kayim. Yeah.
No, I find the neshama actually pressure because, you know, getting your teenage boy to go to minyan to have his neshama connect to Hashem's neshama, like, whole other battle. Yes, you're right. He's been going. But,
you know the last thing boys that are told to get up from minyan feel? Neshama.
Neshama,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and they're very normal, healthy boys. Like, that's very normal. There's nothing wrong that any of you did if your children, your boys, don't feel this fire to wake up and connect their souls to davening with a quorum of 10 other men and at any hour. No. There's a great series of Rav Weinberger. It's not for women, it's for men, but I'm just going to tell you about it. It's called Chaburas Yosef HaTzadik. He's been giving it on Sunday mornings for many years. And he addresses the inyan of, for fathers, how to deal with understanding what type of taivas their children, their sons, are facing in today's day and age with everything that they're exposed to. And and in such a gentle, not exemption way. The whole thing is not, I'm exempting everyone from even trying, and don't try to get your kids to do any minyan. It's just you have to look at it from a neshama perspective and realize, for a kid to get up in the morning and go to shul, and let's say they listen to you, or they want to obviously is Gan Eden. But even if they listen to you and they do it, it's an otzar matnas chinam. This is a huge. It is bigger. It's amazing. I've so often parents tell me, like, the shul, it has to be more like that. Like the kids want to and I say, what? The kids want to run here and be part of it. I say, what ages are you talking about? Always is the same age. It's always the same. 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old. Them. It's so hard. Yeah, where were you when you were 14 or 15? You were running to shul? You set your alarm clock? So of course we constantly have to work on all these things, but a kid that has very little interest of going to shul could be the biggest neshama in the world. It's just that the shuls we have today don't speak to his neshama. For sure. Huh?
His neshama is sleeping. I like
No. His body is sleeping. His neshama, chas v'shalom, is not sleeping. His neshama is not sleeping. The body's sleeping. So it's just very important.
There's another layer to that. We're like, I can't my kids to shul for school or for Shabbos, but like opening up the siddur, having conversations with them, like that. I think we create the piece of the situation to make it better. To me, like that actual neshama.
Exactly.
Hashem is.
Meaning you can do the thing that you could say, this was, I don't want to say it checked the box, but this was the right thing, and it is.
Yeah, that's it.
But beyond that, like but I think what he's going to say is that if the child does grow up in a home where they feel that their neshama is seen all the time, or at least a lot of the time, right? Then they'll be more inclined, and in tune with that mahalach of life. Definitely. So then the shaila is, so how do I look at my children as neshamas? That's really the question, So I'll just save you a lot of ugmas nefesh on that question. Don't you dare think you can answer that question before you looking at yourself as a neshama.
I was just thinking the same
It's
thing.
ensikui.
It's a whole next generation thing, fixing next generation thing. But you have to learn to tune into your own. If you weren't seen, if you weren't given those tools, and now you want to.
But there's this pressure. There's this unnecessary pressure we've put on ourselves that really comes from a good place. That I want to be that type of parent that knows that I'm setting a tone in the house that my children feel it's seen, right? Aval Efshar, until it doesn't work until you've tuned into that yourself. It doesn't work. You could do everything in the world. You could do everything right. This is based on Rabbi Nachman's 282nd teaching in the Likutei Maharan, which is called the Zamra, one of the most famous teachings of Rabbi Nachman. It's a teaching that Rabbi Nachman told his Chassidim that they have to live with and walk with, because it's the Torah of the Nekudos Tovos, of the good points, how you have to focus on the good points by other people, that even if someone's a Rasha Gomor, but you focus just on one good thing about them, and you keep on zoning in on that, and that's all you see, Rabbi Nachman says you could actually elevate that person based on the way that you look at them. Because finally they have someone looking at them like that. They never did before. that you could actually notice someone that looks at you with azamra eyes, that they're not disillusioned that, they don't think you're a perfect tzaddik, but they've decided, I'm going to look at you on the nekuda tova, and that's all I'm going to focus on. Rabbi Nachman says, "Al yedei ze ma'alehu be'emet mikav chova lekav zchut." You actually really do elevate that person, pull them out of a dark place, because they have certain eyes that are looking at them now like they never looked at them before. But then Rabbi Nachman says, but the truth is, you cannot do that unless you've azamra the daylights out of yourself, more or less. And that's much, much harder. That's much harder to do. But it is so, so worthwhile. So let's discuss this for a second. How is a person essentially able to learn how to azamra themselves? How can they really look at themselves as a neshamah more and more? Now, what do you think? How could you view yourself more as a soul? What do you think? I mean, I'm sure you'll tell me breath work and forest stuff, and it's all true. All these things are true. Meditation, of course. Right, but I'm going to ask you the obvious question. So tell me how that means. So
Your relationship with Hashem.
Yeah, but
I'm not talking about mitzvahs.
right. Forget mitzvahs.
Your child. It's not like connecting to their neshamah, making sure they're doing mitzvahs. It's so much deeper than that.
So much deeper.
Who they are. That's neshamah, not like how many mitzvahs they did in it.
It's so much deeper. I'll tell you what I think one of the things that stands us in the way is that what does it take for a person to ask Hashem, please show me who my child really is, versus the tefillah of please make sure my child doesn't mess up? Those two questions are the merchak of heaven and earth. People spend their whole lives in parenting in deep tefillah, thinking they're attuned to tremendous dveikus, all surrounded around the request from Hashem, please make sure my child doesn't go off the derech, or whatever variation you have of that question. As opposed to the real question, that's not the real question. That's not the real request. It's not the real tefillah. The deepest tefillah you could have is to say, Ribono Shel Olam, I am very much thankful for everything, and at times I'm in awe of the fact that I'm a parent to this child. I'm not going to say that I'm in awe all day long, because I'm a body too, and I'm tired. And I'm also tired. Maybe I wasn't seen too. But at least I know that the most important thing to ask of you is please reveal to me clearer, or guide me towards doing whatever I need to do to discover and be in tune with the neshamah that you placed in my possession, I don't want to say possession, but in my midst, care. What's that? Guardianship, yeah. Possession is, even though it's true, especially halachically, because when you have something that you're a owner over, you do need, that's where the halachic ramifications come in, but it's much more shaykh to say, for our context, guardianship and everything like that falls under the realm of care. So what stops people from asking that second question? Empathy and compassion. What else? What do you think? What stops the person from asking Hashem, please reveal to me who my child is? It's a very clear answer, Chavra. Not fear.
Yeah, if they don't know what their purpose here and who they are, then how can they, they're not tapped into that type of understanding.
Okay, but it's a midah that I'm thinking about. It's the one we work on, the opposite of anava. Gaiva.
Oh, God makes it.
Gaiva. You're going to tell me I don't know who my child is? You're going to tell me I have to daven over that? You don't think that I know? I've been waking up at 3 a.m. every night for 15 years over them. I still can't sleep. You're going to tell me I don't? Those two things could have nothing to do with each other. Nothing. Isn't that amazing? It could have nothing to do with each other, but we're under the assumption that it must mean that I know who my child is. It's the same thing with people that were raised from, and they're under the assumption they're close to God because they're religious. What a joke. Thank God we're snapping out of that garbage. That's just garbage. We're Baruch Hashem, like chucking that into the toilet. Yeah, Jenny.
You don't think it's fear you don't think is good for them. That's
No, I don't think it's... the way I learned it is that it's rooted more in gaiva than it is in fear. You should just know, though, that fear, it's what you're saying, there's something there, because fear and gaiva are very much... but the shoresh is gaiva. The root of it is gaiva. One of the branches is fear, is misguided fear, 100%. But the root of it is, all those, but those are phrases. I'd rather speak about traits that we could actually work on. Like as an exercise, to say like, okay, the next time I daven over my children, like, do I feel like I'm mechaleling Shabbos if I don't say, Hashem, please make sure that my kid doesn't fall into something bad, as opposed to the other question, which is what it's really all about. Like we equate these things in these things become so big in our lives. And then to ask Hashem to notice, please help me notice when I smell the gaiva. When I smell the gaiva, and the same thing about myself. Tell Hashem, please, can I have a taste of my own neshamah? You're going to tell me I don't know who I am? You're going to tell me I don't know who I am? Ma atem choshvim? Do you know what I've accomplished in this world? You could accomplish a million things and still never even be close to actually knowing what your neshama is. Because accomplishments have nothing to do with this stuff. I told you it wasn't going to be easy today. I mean, it's not that it's hard, it's just that it's heavy. Okay. So, the bottom paragraph again, Adam shechaim tfisa pnimit yodeh, a person that lives with a deeper perception and is accustomed to thinking that there's a clear distinction between a perception of body and perception of neshama, then the way I start looking at my children has to be with the istaklut of neshamas. ומצד כך, ייתכן שהילד בשורש נשמתו, when you get into dabble into this, it's true. The kid and the root of their soul may be a bigger Talmid Chacham or יותר tzaddik מהוריו. Holier or more righteous than his parents, it's true. ואם כן, אף שכרגע התפקיד של ההורים הוא לחנך את הילדים עד שיגדלו, nonetheless, even though right now Hashem placed them in a body form, not in neshama forms only. Hashem placed these big neshamas in body forms and placed them on your doorstep. And you have a mitzvah of mechaneching them till they get bigger. ייתכן שכאשר הם יגדלו ותתגלה נשמתם, הם יהיו בדרגה גבוהה יותר מההורים. And it could be that if you just do what you're supposed to do while looking at them as souls, they will reach their potentials of their neshamas. And they really will be huge, big people. Could be. תפיסה זו, this perception, עשויה לסייע לכל הורה, why are we bringing this up? Because the second function of the relationship, not the one that's parent-child in hierarchy and discipline, but the second one that we've been speaking about, which falls more under the category of friendship, and ואהבת לרעך כמוך, this can help us tune into that. שהרי כאשר ההורה מפנים, when a parent internalizes, שהוא וילדיו הם נשמות קדושות השייכות לכנסת ישראל, that me and my children are all holy neshamas that are shayach to this thing called the gathering, the assembly of Israel. יקל עליו לקיים אף בילדיו מצוות ואהלך כמוך ולחיות עמם בבית כרעים וידידים. This helps the notion of having a soundtrack of friendship playing in the house. The realization that I'm with a bunch of holy neshamas in this room. And it's not only parent, a husband, wife, child. No, it's not that. We're a bunch of neshamas. And who knows how many times we've been here. And who knows what we were last time. And who even knows how great these neshamas that I have to change their diapers. Because it's very hard to put that into perspective. Like, imagine if like you misuse this teaching and you're like, what a big neshama this is. I can't would I ever change the diaper of Chalila? I don't want to say names of Rebbes and Rabbaniyot. Like would I? No. Hashem knew what He was doing, exactly what He was doing, by giving you the olam hazeh tolls and obligations. But at the same time, Hashem trusts you to come to the realization that you have big neshamas, the possibility of big, tremendous neshamas that are sitting right in front of you. Im zot nadgish shuv, next paragraph, we have to emphasize again. שיחסי הידידות הנכונים צריכים להיות במקביל לסמכות ההורים. The friendship has to always work in harmony and in unison with authority. And all he's trying to do in this chapter is to help us be able to hold both at the same time. That's why he keeps on going back and forth with, focusing on the fact that they're neshamas, but then saying, but don't lose sight of the fact that they are neshamas that are in bodies, because when this happens, when this harmony takes place, then your child will have a much better chance of not having to come back to this world again. And also you, by the way. You and your child. Even if you didn't get that from home. Even if you didn't get what you're giving to your child right now, that you yourself didn't get that from home, somehow when it says that children come and fix their parents, it doesn't mean that they correct their mistakes. It means that the gates that they opened up for their parents are the ones that they really, their parents needed their parents to do it for them, but they never got to it. And we can go now in this backwards trauma cycle and all these mishigasas, and we all know what the story is with that. It never ends. Once I don't know at what age it happens to us. It happens, I don't know, usually after you have your first child, where you start to go through the blame game on your parents, and then you realize, wait a second, they went through the same exact thing when they were in their 20s or 30s, just different scenario, and then, but wait a second, maybe my great-grandparents also went through this with their own parents. So these things don't help us. They don't get us anywhere. It's all a cycle. It happens because it's a natural evolution of a person that goes through this world with newfound responsibilities, wishing they had better education or whatever they thought that was lacking, which would fix the current moment. But it's just a cycle, and it never leads us anywhere. But the most beautiful thing would be is that to say Masha ya, en li shum shlita alav. I have no control over God knows how many cycles. I barely have control over the one that's in front of me right now. But I know that the best way to approach this right now is by looking at my children as neshamas while I take care of them. And this helps me, he says, fulfill the mitzvah of ואהבת כמוך. And it helps me instill within my children the soundtrack I do want them to live with and grow up with in this world. So the bottom paragraph, we're ending with this paragraph. כאשר מתבוננים, מבחינים שהיסוד דלעיל אינו מחודש כלל. He says, when you look at everything we said, there's no חידוש here. שהרי יש על כך ציווי מפורש בתורה שנפסק להלכה. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, כמובן שילדינו אף הם בכלל רעך. Our children fall into the category of רעך. ואף שרבים אינם מורגלים לחשוב כך, and even though, maybe if you brought this up at your next 5 Shabbos tables with people that aren't in this year, they'll say you're really starting to lose your mind officially right now. This is like zeo. This is like you've lost it. You've drunk the full pitcher of Kool-Aid. Now it's too late. And he says, ואף שרבים אינם מורגלים לחשוב כך, אולם בהתבוננות קלה נבין כי אין כל סיבה לחשוב שילדינו אינם נכללים בציווי של ואהבת לרעך כמוך, שהוא כלל גדול בתורה. You'll come to the realization that there's no way that our children don't fall under the category of the commandment of ואהבת לרעך כמוך. There's no way. Because if so, the Torah should have said, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, ותזכרו שהילדים הם לא החברים שלך. Right? וכשם שיש לקיימו בין אדם לחברו, so the same way you have to have this mitzvah, a parent in your life, when it comes to you and your friend, that with your friends you have to also see them as neshamas, that's not as important as seeing your children as neshamas. כך יש ליישמו בין אדם לבניו. So too, this must be implemented between a person and their children. So there's a lot we could do with this. Okay, there's a lot we could do with this. I do think that the name of the sefer just came to life through today's learning, Because the name of the sefer is Da et Yeladecha. When you think of that just from the outside, you think that means learn all the traits you need in order to psychologically analyze their behavior. Now, there's also a lot in that department because that falls under guf. There is. But da, in Kabbalistic terminology, is always da'at, is coming from the higher, especially when Rabbi Nachman would say the word da. When he'd open up a teaching and he would say da, the Masoret in Breslov is that he always used to start channeling from Olam HaAtzilus, the highest world, whatever that means. But it just means, when he said da, he's like, okay, chevra, this is coming down from the highest of the high. So da et yiladecha, da et yiladecha. If I'd say that in the context of today's shir, it's so clear that the concept of soul is something that it's impossible for me to ever determine who they were, what they were. But it's also impossible and wrong for me to say that they were my children in a previous gilgul and I didn't do a good enough job then, and now I'm going to do a better job of discipline. That's lo yachol liot. That's the name of the game over here. So we have to step out of the shoes of the disciplined shoes for just a second and be like, Ribono shel Olam, please enlighten my heart, especially in times where it feels most foreign or most unwanted, to realize that you've basically sent me the schus, even if it's very, very hard and challenging, to take care of some of your flock, of your neshamas, that are coming from Kisei HaKavod, that are coming from the highest place in the world. And to start the tefillas over our children like that, as opposed to all the way that many people, unfortunately, are still stuck with the framework of davening over their children, which to them they may think it's very, very holy, and that if the child only knew how much I daven, that they don't get into trouble, and the kid's sitting there saying, do you really think that that's what I need my parent to daven for me? Do you really, can't you see me? Can't you see what I'm really waiting for you to daven for? Mom and Dad, Ima and Abba, I would do anything in the world if you just looked at me for a little bit, for a few minutes a day, like a neshamah that's trying to figure it out in this world, without always having to give me the answers of how things work, but just to look at me like a soul and experience our relationship like two souls. Don't worry, it's not going to change the role. It's not role changing. It won't be role changing. It won't start to flip things over. We know we have enough of a healthy background and a concrete background of a relationship. But I'm telling you, if we could x-ray our children's neshamas, like we said probably about a month ago, we would see that the child really is crying when it looks like it's rebelling, or it looks like it's not listening. All it's really doing is saying that it cannot be that I'm going to go through this gilgul with a parent that will only remember that I'm a soul when we're very far from each other and they get nostalgic. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Have a happy week. You want to say something? One second. You want to say something?
Just one thing that I think makes it easier for me to relate to.
Yeah.
I understand the neshama also as our children's personality, and that's here to stay. And we're not trying to fix our children's personality, and when you look at it in that respect, then suddenly you could see them as the person that Hashem made them, the neshama that Hashem sent for you to be, the gift that was given to you, and then instead of trying to fix our kids, which is exactly what we're not supposed to. That's not exactly what we're not supposed to be davening over. It's just different words, but we're not supposed to be fixing them. Right. We're supposed to be helping them be the best them that they could be.
Especially when they are nothing like us or exactly like us. It's either way. There's a Torah we say on this, like the ability to do what Ilana is saying. You have to have chen eyes, b'cheint eyes, to be able to see chen in your children. That when your children see you, they see chen. Like that's the ultimate. We learn this. We learn this because that what you just described keeps the kiyum of the world. How do we know this? And we'll just end with this because the end of the first parsha in the Torah, It's a word we've said many times. The end of the first parsha in the Torah, the last 5 or 6 psukim are horrible. Then there's a pasuk that saves everything. The psukim are saying that Hashem looked at what He created. He looked at the child. Let's just do it for our analogy, right? We looked at this kid. This is what we brought into the world. And then He looks at the kid at like the age of 10 or 20 and like, my God, vayisatzev elibo. Parents get so sad in their hearts. I regret even marrying your mom, and I regret having made you. That's what the psukim say. The pasuk is, ki nichamti ki asitim, which means Hashem regretted making them. That's what the pasuk... Now, we know according to the Zohar HaKadosh that God created many worlds before this world, vehichrivan, and He destroyed them. So, based on that, it looks like we were going down the same exact road, right? And then there's a pasuk, V'noach matzah chen b'einei Hashem. And that pasuk saves the world, and it continues kiyuma olam. Noach and chen obviously is the mirror image of each other, right? But it means that when Hashem, when the father and the mother looked at their child, they saw themselves, and it didn't freak them out. Or even if they didn't see themselves, they saw something that brought up chen. And then when the child, man, Noach, looked at God, the parent, the father, they also weren't disgusted when they saw where they came from. They were b'chent. There was a charm in the air. There was something beautiful. These are all aspirations that are worth putting all of our avodah into, no matter what stage we're at in our life. If you could say, like, what's the most meaningful purpose I could do in this world? Man, women, everyone, it's putting everything into this. Everything. Because you know that when Ad Me'ava Esrim, if you come to Shemaim and they say you did this wrong, then they say, but you know what, one second, your kid was so proud to be your kid. What did you do over there? Can you imagine that? And now imagine all the other things. You built that shul. You finished that shas. You did all those things. Your child is disgusted with what they tasted growing up. So what are all those other achievements and accomplishments? What do they mean? They mean nothing. They mean nothing. So Hashem should help us, Be'ezrat Hashem, continue to work hard in this year. I'm going to be away next week. There will not be shir next week, but when we continue to really have our hearts wide open for this Torah. One more important thing. On Thursday mornings, we've been having a very, very special time with the Biala Rebbe's Mvaseh Tov, his Torah, on the schus of Nashim Tzadkanios and the Maila of women's davening. It's changed my davening, and I don't fall into that category of Tfilat Nashim, but it's changed my own davening for reasons we saw a number of times. And out of the blue, but it's nothing out of the blue, I got a call from a dear friend Chaim Tzvi, Joel Atkins' son-in-law, Beanstalk, thank you. And he told me that he's connected to the Biala Rebbe, and they want to know if they could bring the Biala Rebbe to Efrat, and he thought it'd be a good idea if it'd be in our shul. He said, do you have any shaykhs to? I said, you're not going to believe this, but we've been months already learning the Biala Rebbe, his father's Torah is on for women. So he's coming here Wednesday night for men and women, 8 o'clock. There are moments in life that you got to go out of your way. Trust me when I say this, to be in the presence of someone like this, you want to go out of your way. So it'll be here 8 p.m. Wednesday night. It's a big schus for the shul. It's a big schus for Efrat as well. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Have a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and only good news.